Hello there Internet, and welcome to The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past, in about 16 minutes. I'm your host Roo, and I'm very excited about today's game. But before we jump into it, let's take a look at the history of The Legend of Zelda, A Link to the Past. Back in 1988, Nintendo decided to continue its series of blockbuster Legend of Zelda games. While the game was still in development for the NES, Nintendo decided to move it over to its new console, the Super Famicom, known as the Super Nintendo in the rest of the world. The game received a huge budget and time for its development and was the first game to use an 8-bit cartridge. The game finally saw its release in November of 1991. A Link to the Past became another huge success for Nintendo, with ultimately selling over 4.6 million copies worldwide and being critically acclaimed. To this day, many reviewers granted the title of one of the greatest games ever. You can see for yourself that this game is beautifully to look at, and it also introduced a lot of the series' most iconic musical pieces. Just give it a listen. But that sound when you're low on health. Please just kill me. Thank you. Interestingly enough, the localization of the game saw some changes to it. The Japanese tagline, "The Triforce of the Gods," was changed to "A Link to the Past" for the English version, to avoid beef with religious groups. I always wondered why it was called that. There is a link in the game, but there is no time travel whatsoever. But wait, here is a spicy bonus fact. The game was originally intended to be sci-fi related. Yeah, no joke. The player was supposed to travel between current and future Hyrule. Now that tagline makes a little bit more sense. But that's not all regarding the name changes. The game's antagonist, Aghanim, was also changed from being a priest to being a wizard. The more you know. So now that we got the basics out of the way, let's take a look at the game itself. To make things clear, this is not a sequel to the previous two games. Although the kingdom is still named Hyrule, and most of the important characters share the names of characters from the other games, there is no direct connection. Taking the convoluted Zelda timeline in consideration, this is actually a prequel. Let's better move on. Why don't we start by taking a little look at the backstory the game's manual tells us. Oh man, remember when games came with these little books? I miss that stuff. The game's backstory goes like this. A very long time ago, 3 gods created the world Hyrule is set in. The god of strength created the mountains and lands, the god of wisdom created science and wizardry, and the god of courage created life on said earth. Before the 3 amigos took off, they decided to leave behind part of their combined power, the Triforce. Now we know where that thing came from. They left the Triforce in the Golden Land, where it should wait for someone to claim it. The Golden Land itself is like a separate realm or dimension. Sometime later, a group of thieves, led by the King of Thieves, Ganondorf Dragmire, managed to open a rift to the Golden Land. The thieves suddenly started to kill each other to get the Triforce, and eventually Ganondorf claimed the powerful artifact after killing all his men. Upon laying hands on the Triforce, he transformed into his true self, Ganon. Now we know where he came from. A mysterious dark power started to flood out of the Golden Land into Hyrule, starting to corrupt its people. That's where the introduction cutscene of the game picks up. A long time ago, a bitter war for the Golden Land shook Hyrule. A lot of nasty people wanted to enter it to use the Triforce's power for their own needs. They didn't know that this was just a ruse by Ganon, trying to trap people in the Golden Realm to use them for his army to eventually take over Hyrule. To stop the bloodshed, the then King of Hyrule tasked 7 wise men to seal the gateway to the Golden Land. Once this was done, everything was lovely once again. Until the plot of this game kicks in. The evil priest, I mean wizard Aghanim, raided Hyrule Castle, mind-controlled its soldiers, and eliminated the King of Hyrule. That's right, he didn't just kill him, he eliminated him. Aghanim plans to break the Golden Land seal and abducted 7 maidens, the descendants of the 7 wise men, to achieve this goal. This leads to the introduction of this game's hero, Link, or Roo, or whatever you want to call him. It's a Zelda game, get creative. the kingdom's princess Zelda reaches out to our hero in a dream and begs him to save him out of the castle's dungeon. While Link's uncle sets out in the middle of the night to do whatever, our hero decides to go out by himself to save the princess. That's if he isn't too busy breaking parts and humping inanimate objects. Come on, Link, get your head in the game! Link eventually discovers a hidden entrance to the palace and even meets his badly injured uncle again. He implores him further to save the princess and even lends him his sword and shield. I like how Link doesn't give two shits about his dying uncle. And just look at him. He's an ice-cold killer. He knows that these soldiers are mind-controlled by Aghanim, but that doesn't stop him from brutally murdering them. He doesn't even think twice about throwing them into dark pits of nothingness. Link brutalizes his way through the dungeon, and we see the return of many Zelda stables. Little keys, new helpful items, and even some new stuff, like big keys, which can be used to open special doors. Link manages to save Princess Zelda, and together they make their escape through a hidden pathway into Hyrule sewers. Here they have to fight off rats, bats, and snakes. Oh, sorry, I mean ropes, of course. Our hero and his princess reach Hyrule Sanctuary, and the sage there explains to us that there's only one way to defeat Aghanim, the legendary Master Sword. You guessed it, it's now time to retrieve said sword. But Link doesn't want to do that just yet. He first wants to pay the good people of Kakariko village a visit. He even picks up a neat bugnet there. Very useful to catch fairies. Wait, is that Mario spying on that little kid through a window?
Prepare your diddle hole.
Oh no. Link also talks to some of the people here. They mostly provide him with useful hints. But this bitch just rats him out. Oh, that's right. The soldiers are now out for him since they think he kidnapped the princess. Whoopsie. But our hero doesn't really care about that. He just goes by his day, bombing houses and buying accessories. Hold it over your head for the world to see. So that's why Link is doing that. Good to know. His journey eventually leads Link to the village's wise man, Sahasrara, who furthers the plot by telling him that Link has to gather 3 pendants to prove himself worthy of carrying the Master Sword. This isn't the only time we talk to the old man, since he keeps on telepathically communicating with Link to help him out on his quest. The first dungeon is close by, so let's take a look at it. One thing I love about this game, and the titles going forward, is that all the dungeons have their own style and feel to them. There are icy palaces, flooded structures, spooky thief hideouts, and sandy ruins.
I don't like sand, and it gets everywhere.
You just have to take a look at the first screen of a dungeon to know what awaits you. And for the first time in the Zelda game, you also have to get the big key to reach a big treasure chest to get the dungeon specific item. The first dungeon, for example, holds the bow and arrow, or how the fans refer to it, the D. Another dungeon rewards you with a nice fire rod, and another one holds the awesome power glove. I love the power glove. It's so bad. Little treasure chests also encourage the player to fully explore the dungeons. And the struggle is real here. After solving a puzzle or cleaning a room of enemies, you can't wait to receive your prize. Just for it to turn out to be the fucking map. Shame on you, Nintendo. That's some cheap heat. Furthermore, most of the dungeons have their own types of enemies, trying to stop our hero. For example, there are these guys mirroring Link's moves, there are turtles, and even the freaking floor is out to get you. You can certainly tell that Nintendo spent a lot of time coming up with these foes. But where was I? Right, Link's journey to capture the 3 magical pendants. He first murders a group of armor soldiers to get his hands on the Pendant of Courage. He then does a little pit stop at the Desert Temple to beat up a bunch of worms to get the Pendant of Power, and eventually makes his way through Death Mountain to reach Hera's Tower. Here he stumbles upon a mysterious teleporter to the so-called Dark World, an evil counterpart of Hyrule. The Dark Land is that evil, it transforms beings from the Light World into hideous monsters. Except for Link, who's transformed into a bunny. Alright, let's move on. Our hero storms Hera's Tower, gets his hands on the Moon Pearl, an artifact which allows him to retain his human form in the Dark World, and defeats the dungeon's boss, a big bouncy worm. Now in possession of the last pendant, the Wisdom one, our hero hurries to the Lost Woods to get his due reward, the Master Sword. Things suddenly turn sour as Zelda reaches out to our hero, telling him that Aghanim's forces found her. Link hurries to the rescue, but is too late. Aghanim already started the ritual to break the Golden Land seal. Our hero probably could have stopped him, but I guess he was just fine with watching Zelda being eliminated. We do get out of Aghanim and even manage to defeat him, but the douchebag decides to escape, bringing us to the Dark World with him. So where do we go from here now? Shamalama Ding Dong tells us that we have to save the 7 maidens kidnapped by Aghanim. He could have phrased it differently though. Please make this old man's wishes come true.
Nice.
No thank you. Before we carry on to the first dungeon, let's take a look at the Dark World itself. It is pretty much a bizarre version of Hyrule, with a more grittier and filthier look. For example, the ruined village of outcasts can be found where Kakariko village is supposed to be, and this guy here set up shop where our house is supposed to be. I only bring him up because he's an important part of the progress to upgrade your sword. He will sell you a giant bomb which you will have to use to reach this fairy lady. She is kind enough to upgrade your weapon to the golden sword, the most powerful sword in the game. How powerful is it? It's that powerful you can feel it throbbing in your hand.
Nice.
What I really like about the Dark World is that changes made in the Light World also affects its counterpart in the Dark one. For example, opening this dam, filling the structure with water, also fills its counterpart in the Dark World with water. But I'm getting sidetracked again. Sorry. With his long, throbbing sword in hand, Link sets out to the first important stop in the Dark World, the first dungeon. He dukes it out with a giant masked scorpion monster and receives a crystal in return. But this is no ordinary crystal. It's a prison for one of the kidnapped maidens. She tells Link the story of Ganondorf/Ganon and that he is responsible for the shit state the Dark World is in. To stop Ganon from conquering Hyrule, we now have to save the remaining maidens and face the Prince of Darkness himself. I'm not sure if Link got all of that. I'm pretty sure he's kinda busy enjoying the view from down there. The other maidens also reveal that Link is part of an old bloodline of knights, the only people able to defeat the evil Ganonpork, making him the last hope of saving the world. This guy. Are you sure? Maybe his uncle can help out? He should be part of the bloodline too. Alright, he's out of commission. They also go on something about mixing the blood of the wise man and knight lineage, but I think that one was just coming on to Link. Carrying on, Link makes his way to the water dungeon of the game, where we are introduced to another staple in Zelda games, the hookshot. I'm not going to talk about every single dungeon in the game, we don't have that much time, but I want to go over the parts I really liked. The fourth dungeon, for example, is hidden in the town of outcasts. The dungeon itself has you saving a damsel in distress, which later turns out to be the dungeon's boss. Pretty cool stuff. The bosses themselves are pretty well designed, although I started to see a pattern there. Nintendo really likes eyes. I also like that you have to alternate between the light and dark world to reach certain dungeons. And now, it's time to talk about the endgame. Get ready for the big boss fight. After fighting a giant turtle in Turtle Rock, very creative, Link saves Zelda, and with the combined power of the other maidens, we are able to breach Ganon's tower. We once again duke it out with Aghanim, who turns out to be just an alter ego of Ganon himself. For being that really powerful evil entity, the pig is pretty quick to make his escape though. Link and Ganonpork throw down in the central pyramid in the Dark World, and after a fierce battle, Link stands victorious. Ganon is dead, and Link is told by the Triforce itself, yeah, it can speak now, that he can use its power to make his wishes come true. And I think we all know what Link wishes for.
Nice.
Jokes aside, our hero uses the almighty Triforce to return the Dark and Light World to their former states. We are even treated to a really nice outro cutscene. The king is uneliminated and reunited with Zelda, our uncle made a full recovery, all the other side characters Link didn't really care about are fine too, and with the threat of Ganon gone, the Master Sword sleeps once again. Well, that was A Link to the Past. I'm sure the following statement is going to get me some heat. This is my favorite Zelda game, and yes, I even think it's better than Ocarina of Time. I know, how sacrilegious of me, but hear me out first. A Link to the Past was the very first ever game I played, and the first Zelda game I played through. It somewhat started my love for the Zelda series and games in general. Without it, I probably wouldn't be doing this review or have a YouTube channel altogether. Keeping my personal feelings aside, I do think it's safe to say that this game shaped the way of the series' future. A lot of gameplay mechanics were introduced in this installment and improved upon in the games to come. I like to compare it to an old craftsmaster, passing down its knowledge to younger generations. Well, now that we got that big circle jerk for A Link to the Past out of the way, what's up next on the agenda? Look at that! Link's Awakening. Until then, thank you so much for watching. This is Roo signing off. Bye bye!